Welcome to Dream Tale Sleep Stories. Tonight's reading is The Wizard Intern. Settle into your bed or sofa and let your shoulders, jaw, and eyelids grow heavy. Inhale slowly, 1, 2, 3, and sigh the air away, allowing the day to fade into quiet dark. With every soft inhale, you invite fresh English phrases. With every gentle exhale, stray thoughts drift farther off. Behind my voice flows a gentle theta wave melody, renowned for guiding the mind toward deep relaxation. Soon the music will shift into soothing alpha wave tones, carrying you toward a calm shoreline of dreams. Keep your eyes closed or follow the captions, whichever feels right. Simply receive the rhythm and resonance of the language. Deep in rest, tonight's phrases will take root like seeds, ready to bloom into stronger English skills with the morning light. When you feel settled, hold that unhurried breath and allow yourself to drift into the tale. The Wizard Intern begins now. And when the story's final line has faded, the music will linger a little longer, carrying you gently deeper into sleep. The Wizard Intern. Merlin Ashwood had spent 300 years mastering the ancient arts of magic in the hidden realm of Eldoria. He could summon storms with a whisper, transform lead into gold, and speak to animals in their own tongues. But when the Council of Elders announced that all young wizards must complete an internship in the modern human world, Merlin felt more nervous than when he had faced his first dragon. "It's for your own good," Elder Morgana had explained, her silver beard flowing down to her knees. "The worlds are becoming closer, and we must understand their technology, as they will eventually discover our magic." That was how Merlin found himself standing outside the glass towers of Technova Industries on a Monday morning, wearing an ill-fitting suit instead of his comfortable robes. His resume, magically created the night before, claimed he had a degree in alternative energy solutions from a university that technically existed in another dimension. The receptionist, a young woman named Claire with perfectly styled hair, looked at him suspiciously. "You're here for the internship program? You look a bit old for an intern." Merlin touched his face self-consciously. He had forgotten to adjust his appearance spell and still looked about 35 instead of the 22 his resume claimed. "I'm a mature student," he said quickly, mentally adjusting the illusion. "Very passionate about renewable energy." Claire's expression softened as his features shifted subtly younger. "Oh, that's wonderful. Mr. Davidson will see you in Conference Room B. The elevator is just down the hall." The elevator was Merlin's first challenge. He had read about these vertical transportation devices, but experiencing one was different. When the doors opened, he stepped inside cautiously and stared at the buttons. Floor 15. He pressed it gently, half expecting the button to glow with mystical energy. Instead, the doors simply closed, and the elevator began to rise. "Going up?" asked a voice beside him. Merlin jumped, not having noticed the other passenger, a young man about his apparent age with dark hair and tired eyes. "Yes, to the 15th floor." Merlin replied, trying to sound casual. Same here. You interviewing for the internship too? The young man extended his hand. I'm Jake, computer science major at State University. Merlin shook his hand carefully, controlling his strength. Merlin, I study alternative solutions. Jake raised an eyebrow. Interesting name. Your parents must be Harry Potter fans. Something like that, Merlin muttered, making a mental note to research this Harry Potter person later. The interview with Mr. Davidson, a middle-aged man with a firm handshake and skeptical eyes, was more challenging than Merlin had anticipated. The questions about renewable energy were easy enough. He simply described magical energy in scientific terms. But the technical questions about computers left him struggling. What programming languages are you familiar with? Mr. Davidson asked, tapping his pen against his notepad. Merlin's mind raced. He had memorized some terms from the internet cafe where he had created his resume. I'm fluent in Python? He said it like a question, hoping it was correct. Excellent. We use Python extensively for our data analysis. What about your experience with machine learning algorithms? Machine learning? Merlin thought desperately. Was that like teaching golems to perform tasks? I believe in teaching machines through repetitive instruction and positive reinforcement, he said carefully. Mr. Davidson looked confused, but made a note. Interesting approach. Well, Mr. Ashwood, despite some unusual answers, your passion for sustainable energy is evident. We'll start you in the Research and Development Department. Can you begin tomorrow? Merlin nodded eagerly, relieved to have passed this strange ritual. Yes, absolutely. Thank you for this opportunity. His first day as an intern was a disaster. Merlin arrived early, determined to make a good impression. But nothing went as planned. The ID card reader at the entrance refused to recognize his card until he discreetly cast a small cooperation charm on it. The coffee machine in the break room nearly exploded when he tried to heat his cup with a warming spell, forcing him to pretend he had pressed the wrong button. First day nerves, laughed Sarah, one of the senior developers who had witnessed the coffee incident. She was in her late 20s with curly red hair and a kind smile. Don't worry, we've all been there. Come on, I'll show you to your workstation. The workstation was a cubicle with a computer, a phone, and a plant that looked like it was dying. Merlin touched the plant gently, sending a small pulse of life energy into it. The leaves immediately perked up and turned a vibrant green. Wow, you have a green thumb, Sarah exclaimed. That plant's been dying for months. What's your secret? Just talking to it nicely, Merlin said weakly. Plants respond to positive energy. Sarah introduced him to the rest of the team. Marcus, a brilliant programmer who spoke mostly in technical jargon. Lisa, the project manager who seemed to survive entirely on energy drinks. And Tom, an older engineer who reminded Merlin of the village blacksmiths back in Eldoria. So what's your first project? Jake asked, appearing at Merlin's cubicle. Apparently, he had been hired too and was working in the adjacent department. Merlin looked at the assignment sheet Sarah had given him. I'm supposed to analyze energy consumption patterns and propose optimization strategies. Sounds intense for a first day, Jake sympathized. Hey, want to grab lunch together? I could use a friend in this place. Over the following weeks, Merlin slowly adapted to office life. He learned to use the computer by secretly enchanting it to respond to his thoughts, though he had to be careful not to make it too obvious. His proposals for energy optimization, based on principles of magical energy flow, were unconventional, but surprisingly effective. Your idea about channeling excess heat through a copper framework shaped in specific geometric patterns is brilliant, Tom exclaimed during a team meeting. It's like you're thinking about energy as a living thing that wants to flow in certain directions. That's exactly how I think about it, Merlin admitted, pleased that someone understood his approach. His biggest challenge came when the company announced a hackathon, a 48-hour competition to develop innovative solutions for renewable energy storage. Merlin panicked. He could barely operate his computer normally, let alone program for 48 hours straight. Don't worry, we'll be partners, Jake assured him. You come up with the ideas, and I'll handle the coding. Your unconventional thinking might be exactly what we need to win. The hackathon was held in the company's main conference area, transformed into a buzzing hive of activity. Teams huddled around laptops, whiteboards filled with equations and diagrams, and the smell of pizza and energy drinks permeated the air. All right, what's your crazy idea? Jake asked, fingers poised over his keyboard. Merlin closed his eyes, thinking about how magical batteries worked in Eldoria. What if we could store energy in crystalline structures? Not just any crystals, but ones arranged in specific patterns that create resonance fields. That's actually not crazy, Jake said slowly. There's real science about piezoelectric crystals and energy storage. Keep going. For the next 48 hours, Merlin guided Jake through concepts that bridged magic and science. He described energy flow patterns he had learned from ancient texts, translating them into mathematical formulas. Jake's eyes lit up as he coded, occasionally shouting, "This is insane," or "How did you even think of this?" Sarah stopped by their station on the second day. "You guys look like you're onto something big. The energy readings from your prototype are off the charts, in a good way." "It's all Merlin," Jake said proudly. "He sees energy in ways I've never imagined." As the deadline approached, their prototype, a small device that stored energy in synthetic crystals, arranged in a pattern Merlin recognized as a basic containment rune, was working better than expected. It could store 10 times more energy than conventional batteries of the same size. "Time's up," Lisa announced. "All teams, please prepare your presentations." The presentations were a blur. Merlin watched nervously as other teams showed impressive innovations: solar panels that worked at night, wind turbines for urban environments, and biodegradable batteries. When their turn came, Jake handled the technical explanation, while Merlin demonstrated the device. The key innovation, Merlin explained to the judges, is thinking about energy as something that wants to exist in certain patterns. By creating the right structure, we're not forcing the energy into storage. We're inviting it to rest there naturally. Mr. Davidson leaned forward, intrigued. This is unprecedented. How did you come up with this approach? Ancient wisdom, Merlin said simply. Sometimes old knowledge can inspire new solutions. They won first place. The victory celebration was held at a nearby restaurant. Merlin, who had never experienced modern party culture, found himself overwhelmed by the noise and excitement. Sarah noticed him stepping outside for air and followed. "You're not much for parties, are you?" she asked gently. "I come from a very quiet place," Merlin admitted. "This is all very new to me. The technology, the city life, or just people in general?" Sarah teased. "All of it," Merlin said honestly. "Where I'm from, we do things very differently. Slower, more connected to nature. This internship has been like learning to breathe in a completely different atmosphere." Sarah studied him thoughtfully. "You know, there's something different about you, Merlin. The way you see the world, it's like you're from another time entirely. But that's what makes you special. Your ideas are revolutionary because you don't think like the rest of us." "Thank you," Merlin said softly. "That means more than you know." As the internship progressed, Merlin became more confident in navigating the modern world. He learned to use a smartphone, though it occasionally sparked when he was emotional, mastered the art of video conferencing. After accidentally turning himself invisible during the first call, and even developed a taste for coffee, though he still preferred tea brewed with herbs from Eldoria. His projects continued to amaze the team. He proposed using underground ley lines, which he carefully described as natural electromagnetic channels, to transmit power wirelessly. He designed solar panels inspired by the light-drinking flowers of the enchanted forest. His work on energy-efficient building materials drew from his knowledge of castle construction, where stones were arranged to channel and preserve magical energy. "You're going to change the world," Tom told him one afternoon. "These ideas of yours, they're like nothing I've seen in 40 years of engineering." But as successful as he was becoming, Merlin faced a growing dilemma. His 6-month internship was coming to an end, and the company wanted to offer him a full-time position. The Council of Elders expected him to return to Eldoria with his newfound knowledge, but he had grown attached to his new life and friends. The situation became more complicated when strange things began happening around the office. The plant in his cubicle had grown into a small tree. Computers worked faster when he was nearby. The prototype crystal battery they had developed started glowing faintly at night. Jake was the first to confront him about it. "Okay, buddy, I need you to level with me. The glowing batteries, the plant that defies botany, the way electronics go haywire around you. What's really going on?" Merlin considered his options. The rules were clear. Never reveal magic to the human world. But these people had become his friends, and lies were becoming harder to maintain. "If I told you the truth, you wouldn't believe me," he said finally. "Try me," Jake challenged. "After working with you for months, I'm ready to believe just about anything." Merlin took a deep breath and made a decision that would change everything. He held out his hand, palm up, and concentrated. A small ball of light appeared, floating above his skin, casting otherworldly shadows on Jake's amazed face. "I'm a wizard," Merlin said simply. "A real one, from a realm called Eldoria. I'm here on an internship to learn about your technology, just as you're learning about our magic through my innovations." Jake stared at the light, then at Merlin, then back at the light. That explains so much. The impossible ideas, the weird things happening. You're actually magical. "Are you afraid?" Merlin asked, closing his hand and extinguishing the light. "Are you kidding? This is the coolest thing that's ever happened to me," Jake exclaimed. "My best friend is an actual wizard. Do you have a wand? Can you fly? Is that why our battery works? It's literally powered by magic?" Merlin laughed, relieved by his friend's reaction. "No wand needed. Flying is complicated, and the battery works on principles that blend magic and science. It's not purely one or the other." "Who else knows?" Jake asked. "Just you, for now," Merlin said. "And it needs to stay that way. I'm already breaking major rules by telling you." Jake nodded solemnly. "Your secret's safe with me. But man, this explains why you didn't know who Harry Potter was." Over the next few weeks, Jake helped Merlin navigate the complexities of maintaining his cover while pushing the boundaries of what was possible. They refined their crystal battery technology, careful to keep it within the realm of theoretical possibility for human science. Sarah, however, was getting suspicious. She had always been observant, and Merlin's peculiarities were adding up. The crisis came when she walked into the lab late one night to find Merlin levitating components into place for a new prototype, his eyes glowing softly with concentration. He heard her gasp and spun around, the components clattering to the floor. "Sarah, I can explain." "You're like them," she whispered. "The people my grandmother used to tell me about. The ones who lived in the old country, who could do impossible things." Merlin approached slowly, hands visible and non-threatening. "Your grandmother knew about magic?" Sarah nodded, tears forming in her eyes. "She said her mother was helped by magical folk during the war. They saved her life, helped her escape. But she said they vanished after that, went into hiding. I thought they were just stories." "They weren't stories," Merlin said gently. "We've always been here, living alongside you, helping when we can. But we've had to hide for both our safety and yours." "Is that why you're here? To help?" Sarah asked. Merlin nodded. "To help and to learn. Your technology and our magic, they're not opposites. They're different ways of understanding the same universe. The Council believes it's time we started working together, carefully and secretly." Sarah wiped her eyes and managed a shaky laugh. "Well, that explains why you're so weird about normal things. Do you even know how to use a microwave properly?" "Not really," Merlin admitted, and they both laughed. With Sarah and Jake now in on his secret, Merlin's final month at Technova became even more productive. They worked as a team, translating magical concepts into scientific breakthroughs. Sarah's chemistry background helped her understand how Merlin's potions knowledge could apply to creating new materials. Jake's programming skills allowed him to create algorithms based on the logical structures of spell construction. The company's leadership was ecstatic about the team's innovations. Mr. Davidson called Merlin into his office for a final meeting. Merlin, I'll be direct. Your internship is ending, but we want you to stay. The work you've done here is revolutionary. We're prepared to offer you a senior position, despite your age, with a salary that reflects your contributions. Merlin felt the weight of the decision. The magical communication crystal in his pocket had been buzzing with messages from the council, reminding him of his obligations to return. I'm deeply honored, Merlin said carefully. Could I have a few days to consider? This decision affects more than just my career. Of course, Mr. Davidson said, but don't take too long. Minds like yours don't come along often. That evening, Merlin met with Sarah and Jake at their usual coffee shop. The weight of his decision was visible on his face. You're leaving, aren't you? Sarah said softly. I have obligations to my people, Merlin explained. The knowledge I've gained here needs to be shared with the council. But you don't want to go, Jake finished. Dude, I get it. You've built a life here. Merlin nodded miserably. In Eldoria, I was just another young wizard learning ancient arts. Here, I feel like I'm making a real difference, bridging two worlds that need each other. Then don't choose, Sarah said suddenly. Why does it have to be one or the other? What do you mean? Merlin asked. You said the worlds are coming closer together. Why not be an ambassador? Spend time in both worlds, bringing knowledge back and forth. The company would probably be fine with you working remotely part of the time. Jake's eyes lit up. She's right. You could be like a magical consultant. Work here for 6 months, then go back to your world for a while to teach what you've learned and study more magic to bring back. Merlin felt hope bloom in his chest. That might actually work. The council wanted us to build bridges between the worlds. What better bridge than someone who lives in both? The next morning, Merlin contacted the council through his crystal, proposing his new role. Elder Morgana's projection shimmered in his apartment, her expression thoughtful. An interesting proposition, young Ashwood. A permanent ambassador between worlds. It's unprecedented, but these are unprecedented times. Very well. You may continue your work in the human world, but you must return quarterly to report and continue your magical studies. Thank you, Elder Morgana, Merlin said gratefully. I won't let you down. With the council's approval, Merlin accepted a modified position at Technova, Senior Consultant for Alternative Energy Innovation, with a flexible schedule that allowed him to visit family every few months. Mr. Davidson was puzzled by the unusual arrangement, but agreed when Merlin promised to maintain his innovative output. On his last day as an official intern, the team threw him a surprise party. The conference room was decorated with balloons and a banner reading, "Congratulations on your permanent position." The cake, Jake informed him with a grin, was magically delicious. Speech, Sarah called out, and others joined in the chant. Merlin stood, looking at the faces of his colleagues who had become friends. When I started this internship, I thought I was just here to observe and learn. But you taught me something more important than any technology. You showed me that innovation comes from bringing different perspectives together, from being willing to see the world through new eyes. He raised his cup of punch, which Jake had quietly assured him was not spiked with anything magical. To building bridges between worlds, whether they're departments, disciplines, or different ways of thinking. And to the best team a confused intern could ask for. To Merlin, Tom shouted, and everyone drank. As the party wound down, Merlin found himself on the roof of the building with Sarah and Jake, watching the sunset over the city. The skyline was so different from the forests and castles of Eldoria, but it had become home in its own way. So what's next for the wizard consultant? Jake asked. First, I need to file my report with the council and share everything I've learned. Then, I'll study some new magical techniques that might help with our battery project. Oh, and I should probably actually learn how to use a computer properly, instead of just enchanting it. Sarah laughed. Please do. IT is getting suspicious about why your computer never needs updates or crashes. Thank you, Merlin said suddenly. Both of you, for accepting me, weird magical quirks and all. Thank you for trusting us, Sarah replied, and for showing us that the world is so much bigger and more wonderful than we imagined. Just promise you'll teach me some actual magic eventually, Jake added. Even if it's just making lights float. That was so cool. Merlin smiled. I promise. Though I should warn you, the first lesson in magic is usually about patience and meditation. Ugh, pass, Jake groaned, and they all laughed. As night fell over the city, Merlin felt the comfortable weight of his two worlds settling into balance. Tomorrow, he would return to Eldoria to share his discoveries. But he would be back, ready to continue building bridges between magic and technology, between the ancient and the modern. The scared young wizard who had stood outside Technova's doors months ago was gone. In his place stood someone new, not fully wizard, not fully part of the modern world, but something in between. A bridge, an ambassador, a friend. And as the first stars appeared in the sky, Merlin knew that his real adventure was just beginning. The internship had ended, but his work, bringing two worlds together, one innovation at a time, would continue for years to come. In his pocket, the crystal buzzed with a message from Elder Morgana. Well done, young ambassador. The future is brighter with bridges like you. Merlin smiled and headed back inside to his friends. There was still so much work to do, so many discoveries to make. But for tonight, he was exactly where he belonged, between worlds, among friends, ready for whatever tomorrow might bring.